I think we have like all the sonic possibilities, all the voices, all the combinations. That's all here. We've been experimenting it for a while. I think the real task is now how to control it. We have seen in the past, let's say 2 years, a lot of new sequencers. Some of them are performative, some of them are less. I think that this is like the main question. How do you perform music live? And how do you interact with the instruments that you can make the music live?
Well, while we've been looking back into the past, we've been looking at analog gear, and you can see now there's started a trend to like digital. It's kind of started in modular, people doing very interesting thing with digital synthesis again. And as chips are getting more powerful, we can start doing a lot more with the digital side again and not worry about some of the issues with digital, like it sounding thin, aliasing, all that kind of is moving away now, which is good. But I think it's also going to be more about how we interact and how we control. With like MIDI 2.0 got announced, and it's a lot higher resolution. You can do things per note. So I think we're going to see a lot more expressive controllers in the future and really connect to the synthesizer as an instrument again.
The future of instruments, I would say, is probably digitally driven, because I think most of all hardware possibilities have been made and have been made in a very good way. So I think it's going to be digital in a way. And there's a lot of talking about artificial intelligence and stuff like that. But the stuff I have heard so far is kind of not really there yet. The feeling I have at the moment, what might be a problem, is very often it's programmers doing all these things because they know how to do it. But you need also musicians involved, because it's very important to get a sound that has an impact and not just some noise that's new. So it needs to be musical.
I think it's going to be two things that are going to evolve. Of course, the interface. I imagine a touchscreen which gives you a haptic feedback, which is going to morph the way you build it on the computer beforehand, and then you still have the ability to just feel the synth on a modular touchscreen kind of device. That's the one thing. The other thing is the sound engines, the digital ones. They are right now starting. A very good example is the C15, which I have here. I think it started with a reactor patch, but the internal resolution coming from the keyboard is 2000 something in velocity steps. So the expression which comes just out of the keyboard is so much further than any digital instrument out there. And also the engine reacts on it. So what I'm trying to say is the digital synths are just at the beginning in terms of being organic and having an expression that comes very close to a real instrument, and I'm talking guitar and flute and that kind of stuff.
I'm quite convinced that this will go into the direction of highly personalized musical instruments for a specific purpose, because that's a benefit of modular synthesizers, that you can make something completely unique. And when you take a look even on large brands, not only in the musical industry, they try to target very specific areas and try to make products very personalized, And I guess synthesizers, at least modular ones, already are heading in that direction, that people want to have something special.
I think At least how I design sounds, what is exciting about like doing music now that you're not limited to like one technique. It's always combination of the techniques. And I think how people will combine like samples with analog sounds, there's gonna be like new combinations coming out. It's not gonna be the sounds themselves, but the new combinations.
Music always goes through cycles of radical breakthroughs and then lots of refinement. And sometimes the end result of the refinement is the most impressive part. You know, if you take something like the development of frets or the development of polyphony, there is definitely a breakthrough, this kind of a radical moment, but it takes a lot more musical activity to kind of develop that idea.
I think the contextual potential has to be met in the software side, because that involves, I know it's a kind of a dirty word nowadays, but a social network that looks very different, almost like social technology, the technology behind, you know, the big social networks of today, Instagram, Facebook, using that kind of technology to provide a context for musicians. How those musicians choose to develop their craft and technology and the equipment that they choose to develop their craft on, that kind of doesn't matter. Whether it's analog hardware or digital hardware or software on desktops, software on laptops or software on smartphones and tablets, there are so many different ways to interact with sound in a real-time way. And I think the hardware-software divide will become an expressive choice rather than a tribe or a philosophy to belong to.
When something new appears, then there are a lot of versions and variations. Like for over last decade, there was a significant increase in how sample-based instruments are developing. Sampling quality has increased like radically, so that I could say the last decade would be about sampling technology. And so in future, let's see. As I see from modular experiments, there are different convergence devices where in a single oscillator you can have a selection of all possible synthesis ways. But at the moment, I do not see really any revolutionary development.
It may not be immediately obvious kind of looking at the stuff that happens this week, but some of what's happening is a kind of a refinement to make things more playable, to make it possible to do things live or to do things in an improvisational way instead of just doing a lot of kind of pre-programming setup, things like that. And that kind of spread of the musical culture around the technology takes more time.
I think people are making unheard sounds like all the time. It's the question like how does such music get to you, right? If you make something unheard of, it might like stay in like small circles of enthusiasts that like these sounds, and one step at a time it's also making its way to the pop culture or like some of these like more popular genres.
Will digital synthesis effectively replace analog synthesis? Will the future of music synthesis lie in creative interfaces and performances? Will music automation and AI-generated sounds and music be major components of music synthesis in the future?